favorite song right now. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of From the Hill, Saturday, January 27th.
How's it going, man?
That is my favorite song right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've heard it once before. I saw Bruno did a concert last night.
Did he?
Yeah, he did a concert on TV live. It was live.
I should check that out.
The Apollo.
Oh, I did see that. Childish Gambino was there, wasn't he?
I can't speak to that. I don't know who that is.
Jack Swaggy B here with Nick the prospect from South Carolina.
Oh, all 10.
How'd the softball trip go, buddy? How'd you guys do?
Oh, boy. Well, we had a good time. We'll say that. We had a good time.
That bad, huh?
We played a couple games.
You guys a little rusty down there?
Yeah, we was just getting the bugs out. We did 3 games.
All right.
We're just prepping for the season.
Yeah, let's fun trip.
All those boys down there play year round.
Oh, well, of course. It's like every time, right, with baseball.
Yeah.
Down south, out west, they play all year round, man.
They hit the ball.
Well, you guys do like the indoor tournaments too sometimes?
I haven't this year, but I would love to. You know I'm always ready to play.
I know. You're like Johnny on the spot. Hit him up, he'll go.
Yeah.
So, guys, I put this out yesterday. Today's show is going to be the best From the Hill that we have ever done. We got some hot button topics that we want to cover. We're going to jump in. But first, got some housekeeping to take care of. As always, when you watch From the Hill, check the description section of the video. We will timestamp all the segments so you don't have to spend your entire Saturday morning listening to.
But why wouldn't you want to?
You would want to. But if you just want to get to the big stuff, then go ahead and check the timestamp. We got some merch.
Boom!
Got some wristbands here. Prof and I are rocking them. There's a ton, so hit us up. I know I've been talking about giving merch out. I got koozies on the way. We got hats and shirts in the work. So hit us up if you want some merch.
Unreal. This show's growing.
These glow in the dark, by the way, too. So I tested it last night, actually. Turned the lights out, gave it a little charge. It's awesome. So keep you safe when you're jogging at night or you're walking the dog.
Or, if you need to use the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Right.
Basically lights your way.
Yeah, if you have it on your wrist, you'll be able to see it on the hallway. Kids love them. But speaking of giving out merch, so I actually put out in the middle of the week an Instagram, Snapchat sort of video trivia on the spot. I caught that announcer in the Villanova game doing that movie reference, which I thought was fantastic. So I put that out there. A ton of people reached out. And if I forget you on here, don't kill me. But both Pants brothers, Dave, Russell, Jimmy, a lot of people reached out about that. So hooking everybody up. Obviously, like I said, just hit me up. Just got to wait for the merch to come in.
Yeah.
I got to come in. You saw this.
This ain't Amazon.
Yeah, we're building a stockpile here to hook everybody up, but we'll take care of everybody that wants some. So don't you worry about that. I have a theme for today's show. I told Nick this, and I'm going to throw it out in the beginning, and then we're going to get back to it after we cover some other stuff. But we're going to call it Philadelphia Strikes Back. What do you think about that, Prof?
Yeah, well, we have to. We have to strike back. We've been getting a bad name in the media this week, even after the performance that our team put up. But yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit. That should be an interesting topic, and something that everybody here can sink their teeth into.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. So, real quick before we get into the championship games, Prof, did you see that XFL is coming back?
The XFL.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that, and actually, I saw this a couple weeks ago, and McMahon, I guess, had sold a certain amount of stock in the WWE, and it started this new company, and this is Alpha Entertainment Company that he started. And once he sold all those stocks, I guess he went in and started copywriting or trademarking all the XFL stuff. So people had speculation on this for a while. And then he comes out, was it yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever, and he comes back and he says that he's going to restart the XFL in 2020. So he's putting a couple of years into this. This is completely funded by him, which is interesting.
Which is very interesting.
And there's a reason he did that. And the I guess the catch of all this is there's no gimmicks now.
Right, like the last one, they had like cheerleaders in the hot tubs and stuff, right? Like the whole thing.
The whole thing was outrageous.
Sam Ponder wouldn't like that if they did that these days.
No. But so what they're getting into now is no gimmicks. Back then, when they started this thing up, it was exactly, it's going to play out exactly how it's going to play out in 2020 when they start this thing back up. Everybody just kind of wanted to catch a glimpse of what was going on. And the ratings will be high in the beginning, and then I think they're going to go straight in the toilet.
Probably.
For a couple reasons that we're probably going to get into here.
Probably.
Now.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look, the reason that I think it's awesome is because it's a platform for my boy. I'll almost guarantee Johnny Football is starting on opening day in the XFL.
Not if the reports are true.
What are those reports?
All right, so let me just start by, the first question I ask myself is why is he doing this thing? And I think the reason is because he failed at the first one. And if you know Vince McMahon, if you watch Vince McMahon, he's the alpha male, alpha entertainment. That's his whole thing. So for him to lose that and kind of be the ass of all jokes, and you've watched the 30 for 30 on This Is the XFL.
That was great.
It was really good. It was really good, but it kind of made him look like a fool a little bit, and I think that he kind of took that to heart. And why wouldn't you? He's a competitor and he wants to win, and I think that he took that as a slap in the face and he wants to come back and just I think it might be embarrassing, but he's at least given it a run. I don't necessarily think he's going to succeed at this one either because of the level of competition. They're going to be spread too thin as far as talent goes. How are you going to compete with the talent of the NFL?
No, see, I agree with you there. I think what the Arena Football League has done in order to kind of jump that talent gap is they sort of change the rules, right? They shorten the field. They make things different. So it makes the game a lot different. So it can also make arena football entertaining because there's a lot of talent in the Arena Football League. Guys that come out of college and maybe just missed the NFL, right? I don't know how it's going to go. I think it's going to be cool over the next 2 years to see how he possibly tries to evolve it. And hey, anything that Vince McMahon gets involved in, he's a very successful businessman. So I'm going to be interested to check it out. But
yeah, well, I disagree with you. The Arena Football League, they don't compete anywhere near the NFL.
No, that wasn't what I was saying.
No, I know, but the talent level, it's kind of like apples and oranges. It's almost not even the same game. And your first question that I didn't answer, why won't Manziel be in it? So McMahon has come out and said that anybody with a criminal record, doesn't matter DUI, any criminal activity, you're not going to play in the XFL.
Johnny Football's a criminal record?
Yeah, man, he's got misdemeanors.
Oh, that's no big deal.
Yeah, well,
we forgive and forget in this country.
For McMahon, he says even if you've got a DUI, if you've got any criminal activity, investigations, anything like that, you're not playing in the XFL. So my first thought, I kind of went the same way as you. I went Manziel, Tebow, and I actually wrote here on the paper, guarantee Kaepernick gets the first contract. Guarantee Kaepernick gets the first contract because that's going to bring eyes to the league. And that's what he's looking to do. He's looking to make money on this, obviously. And if you had Kaepernick in the league, I think the ratings would be through the roof for the first game. But
people are going to tune in just because Vince has the "you must stand for the national anthem" rule, and Kaepernick, if he signs, would have to be basically signing a contract.
Right, and that's why. So what my initial thought process was, this is going to be a grab for attention and eyes, and Kaepernick would get signed. But he actually, reading further into the story, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But
well, I think that's something that we'll watch over the next 2 years.
But the thing is, he saw the weakness. He sees the weakness in the NFL. That we talk about ratings going down in the NFL, and it's not as popular, I think, as it once was with the ratings going down and all that. For whatever reasons those are, you can come up with your own theories on that. But when he saw that weakness, and I think he's trying to exploit that again. When he first came out with it, it was the no fun league. I don't know if he coined that term or not, but that's what people start calling it, the no fun league. And he said, we're going to do all this stuff differently. In the long run, the talent's going to go to the NFL because that's where the money's at.
100%.
And this thing's going to be a dud. You might get a couple high ratings depending on what I think last time they did it on like a Friday night or something like that.
Yeah, and they'll do it when the NFL season's over, right? They don't want to compete with
right,
that.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see where it shows up on TV, what time it shows up on TV, and how they plan to compete with Sunday.
True. All things agreed. So we'll keep an eye on the XFL here. It's definitely interesting. Definitely popping news.
Yeah, man. 10 minutes on that.
How about it?
Go forever.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, America loves football.
Yeah.
Speaking of
and wrestling.
yeah, and wrestling. I'm gonna mention wrestling later. Speaking of football, we had the conference championships last weekend.
Yeah.
Let's start in the AFC. The Patriots, the freaking Patriots.
Do it again, man.
Do it again. They beat the Jags 24-20. And the interesting thing about this game is Jags jumped on New England early, right? And the Pats at one point are down 20-10. And Tom, the GOAT, comes back to beat the boat. What do you think about this game, Prof? I got my thoughts. I want you to start.
Well, I thought there was 5 keys to the game that the Jags had to come out with. If they took care of these 5 things, they win the game. Because let's be honest, this isn't your brother's Patriot team. You know what I mean? This is not the 10 years ago Patriots teams that are setting up for a dynasty. They're kind of, I don't want to say they're on their last leg because they're in the Super Bowl. Let's look at that first. But
back to back,
they're on the decline for sure. And one of the reasons that they are in the Super Bowl is because this is one of the weakest AFCs that we've seen in the last decade for sure. Outside of the Steelers, I mean, just look who they faced in the AFC Championship. It's the Jaguars. They're notoriously hard. They put together a nice defense. They put together a nice season. If they had a quarterback, I think it's a different outcome. But the 5 keys for the Jags in this game were, number 1, win the turnover battle. They did. They won the turnover battle. 1-0. Okay, there's not a lot of turnovers in the game, but they got a turnover. The Patriots didn't. The Jags were 10-0 when Bortles doesn't turn the ball over, which is a pretty interesting stat. He didn't turn the ball over. The second key to the game was run all day. They ran all day. They outran the Patriots 101 yards to 46 yards. Okay, so they took care of that. They took care of business on that end. Offensive line dominance. I think they gave up 3 sacks for 20 yards. The Patriots gave up 3 sacks for 12 yards. Okay, even.
It's gonna happen.
Nothing's gonna sweat. That's a pretty good game by their offensive line when you look at it. Limit Gronk's impact is number 4.
So I wanted to talk about this. So it looks like we figured out how to stop Gronk.
Yeah, give him a concussion.
Yeah.
Drop something. Drop an anvil on his head.
Exactly. Get a cinder block and hit him across the head with it.
So they did that. They took care of number 4, and number 5 was pressure Tom Brady all day. So Brady didn't even throw for 300 yards. At the end of the game, when you looked at it, if you watched just the last quarter of the game, you'd say, "Oh my, he's got to have at least 400 yards passing." He didn't. He didn't even throw for 300. So they took care of all 5 keys to the game. But there's a 6th key that we didn't think of or didn't mention, and that was that you got to cut their throats, man. You got to. I listened to Trey Wingo on the radio this week. You got to sweep the leg. You got to sweep the leg. You got to take them out when you can. And they
Do you have a problem with that?
They did not play to win the game, man. Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. They played in the last half of that game not to lose. And so that's what the difference is. Gronk goes out and freaking Danny Amendola takes over the game, scores 2 touchdowns. He's got 2 touchdowns all year. And it's unbelievable that you can take care of all 5 of those keys, or at least negate some of them, and you can still have Brady just pick and choose who he wants to get the ball to, and they come back out of nowhere. You have to step on their necks when you can, and the Jags didn't do that.
So I am with you on the step on the throat part. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I thought they did a great job against Pittsburgh of not letting off the gas, right? They got up early and they kept scoring. Like, they got up early and the Steelers score and the Jags kept scoring.
But did their defense? Their
Well,
defense was
well,
like
here's
lax.
but
It was
here's
like, okay, guys.
here's what happens, right? And this is the Patriot way, and you alluded to it with Brady at the end of the game. You play well for 3 quarters, and then a team, especially like New England, with a guy like Brady, a quarterback, down 20-10, they go fast paced, no huddle, right? And at that point, that's where you need your offense to make a couple plays, stay on the field a little bit longer so your defense isn't always on the field. New England controlled the fourth quarter because they kept Jaguars' defense on the field and their offense off the field. I don't necessarily think, personally, this is my opinion on it, I don't necessarily think that they took their foot off the gas. But we talked about this when we were breaking down the Jags-Pats game, that their offense and what they do, again, always goes back to Blake Bortles, even though he did play fairly decent. He's limited in what he can do, and so their offense is very limited. And so when it comes time to like shift up or shift down shift, right? I don't feel like there's any change. They're always just that same steady pace.
But you can't be one-sided in this league in any championship game. AFC, NFC, you can't be one-sided. So when you come out with the lead in the second half, the Patriots are going, okay, we're just sitting on the run. They're just going to run. They don't want to put the ball in Bortles' hands. And why would you? Why would you want to put the ball in Bortles' hands?
I agree with that, and that's sort of what we talked about with the Saban Georgia effect, right? Where these coaches against these much apparently superior coaches just come out and neuter their game plan. My only point with the Jaguars is I don't know how neutered their game plan was. Is that's kind of all they can do.
I don't think so. I don't think it is because they tend to put Bortles in situations where it's short outside throws, quick slants, very low risk plays.
Sure.
And if they stuck with that instead of saying, let's play this thing safe, let's ride it out, let's try to burn some clock. If they did that, if they stuck with what got them there, the short low risk throws, which number one, you're gonna eat up yards, you're gonna eat up clock, but you're also gonna give Bortles some confidence. You're also gonna throw their defense to not be able to just sit there on the run. That's all they're doing. You have their defensive guys, and Patricia had them just basically stacked. That Fournette can't do anything. Fournette, he had a good game, but it wasn't the explosive game that they were hoping for.
Well, and when you look at in those situations, the key down there, and frankly, the key down almost all football, but really, when you're in a position like that, it's third down, right? You need to make first downs because you, again, need to keep your offense on the field. If you're trying to chew clock, you got to chew clock. You got to stay on the field.
Yeah, but how much harder does it make third down when you go run?
Sure, and then it's 3rd and 8 versus 3rd and 2.
Right.
I'm with you. I mean, look, I think we both agree that Jacksonville was the inferior team here. I think they made a very good showing. They were in the game. They played well. There's a lot of talent there. But the Patriots were just too much. And again, at the end of the game, they should have learned from the Super Bowl, right? Everybody should. You cannot sit on your lead being up against New England. Never forget the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, you got to play to win 4 quarters. You got to play to win every minute.
Because that team, when they go no huddle, when they got the ball on offense, Tom will rip your heart out at the end of the game every time.
Yeah.
He's just proven he's going to do that. So Brady is going to his record, 8th Super Bowl, trying to get his record 6th ring. I don't even want to ask the question, but he's the GOAT. I mean, he's the GOAT.
Well, yeah, I think he's been for a couple of years. I don't think that's in question at all. And so is the guy calling the plays over there on the sideline. Bill Belichick has. This is interesting. He's been involved in 11 out of the 52 Super Bowls that have taken place. He will be involved in 11 of them. This over 20% of the Super Bowls. Brady's sneaking close to being 10%. When you look at all the quarterbacks, 104 quarterbacks, he's been the quarterback of 8 of them.
And it's crazy over the time scale of the Super Bowls, right? 1 a year for the last 52 years. And
right.
It's insane. I mean, this tandem. I think it was Cowherd, and I hate to reference Cowherd a lot when it comes to the Patriots because he slurs New England. Yeah, but
that's all he talks about.
He was right about one thing. Well, we're never going to see anything like this again in the NFL in this era. So it's one of those things that enjoy it while you can see it because it is pretty special.
Well, and they said that about San Francisco, back in the early '90s too. And then it turns out we did see it again. There's always going to be teams that dominate, and it's heading more that way now. With you see over the last decade, it's more the Steelers and the Patriots, and there's always going to be the teams that are up there because of the management and how they run the team and how they scout players, and but all that said, Belichick being the best coach of all time, Brady being the best quarterback of all time, I still smell the end of this thing. And that brings a smile to Jack's face.
Well, there's just so many things that go into that one, but let's talk about the team. The team.
The team.
The NFC Championship and those Philadelphia Eagles. An absolute shellacking of the Vikings. 38-7. Nick, did you see anything like that happening Sunday night?
No, I'm speechless. I was completely speechless when I saw this, and if you guys have heard me, and maybe we've talked about it a little bit, we haven't done a show for a couple weeks, but I was completely out on the Eagles. I'll be the first to admit it. I apologize. Maybe we should start a new segment called "I Apologize For." I apologize, man. I was completely wrong about Foles and. Now listen, I don't think Foles is the dynasty quarterback, but
he can get the job done. Clearly,
he definitely did. I underrated him when Carson Wentz went down the entire season. I think this is the most important part: is I underrated Doug Peterson.
Yes, I think everybody did.
I mean that game. As far as Nick Foles. I'm not speaking in hyperbole here. I think it might be the best performance that I've seen of anyone in a Philadelphia uniform.
He was great.
Given the situation.
He was incredible.
He was perfect.
He was perfect. You look at, and to Nick's point, I think we all expected the Eagles defense to play very well. And they did. I mean, they, again, played above very well. They played excellent. 7 points to the Vikings. Not that they have a high-power offense, but there's some weapons. But when you look at the flip side, Foles, 352, 3 TDs. He was perfect. The Vikings had the number one defense in the NFL. I alluded to this last week, and it actually came true to make a difference. They're a different defense on the road, right? They went from first when they were at home to eighth on the road, which played a little bit difference. But the bottom line is that Doug Peterson's game plan, his play calling, Foles' execution, the offensive line dominance, right? And here's another thing I wanted to talk about. This was the Howie Roseman show. He won Executive of the Year, and this game just proved how valuable he actually is and how great of an executive he is. Run down the list of guys that dominated that game for the Eagles. Jeffrey, Torrey Smith contributing huge. We've been waiting all year for it. Ajayi, what a trade to bring him in. Blunt, these guys dominated that game, and it's all because of that man. That bad man.
Yeah, so just you ran down a couple things there. When the Vikings came out and they put up 7 right away, and I started like, oh God, this is going to be one of those.
The worry started, right?
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did for me. Because in the Falcons game, let's be honest, we got some lucky breaks in that game, right? The ball bouncing off the guy's knee, Torrey Smith just being Johnny on the spot. First down, kind of takes us into a new series of downs, kind of swung the momentum of the game a little bit.
That was such a weird game. We talked, the special teams was so bad, right? Like everything about that game was just.
Well, and that ball going through Julio Jones' hands, the last play of the game, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're right. That was an odd game.
So those are some lucky breaks. This was just a whooping from start to finish.
Oh, yeah.
When they came out and scored 7. Just the Philadelphia mindset, I think. It's, oh boy, here we go again. We're gonna get routed. But Foles and Peterson, they
well, look at it real quick from the Viking side, right? You're a road team in a championship game. What do you want to do with the first possession? You want to come out and you want to silence the crowd, and they did it. And that first drive, they looked unstoppable.
The crowd was out of it.
They come out and they put a touchdown up within 3 minutes. Drive down the field, and you're going, here we go again.
It deflated the stadium, and you could hear it. You could hear it on TV, but it didn't faze these guys. And that's not what we're used to. That's not what I'm used to. I was like, I really thought it was gonna get ugly, and then like something switched, and that was the end of the Vikings for the entire game. No, the narrative that we've heard throughout the playoffs, and it's becoming, the last couple of years, like the phrase you always heard was like bell cow running back. There's always like this, there's always this term that comes up in the NFL, and this year I heard it more than ever was defense travels, defense travels. So all these great defenses that are coming into the playoffs, the Jags, the Eagles, the Vikings, defense travels. Everybody's saying that, and their defense didn't travel. Their defense was non-existent.
No.
And there's a reason for it, and I think it's because Doug Peterson has the ability to take this, to find the strengths of his guys and just let them go do their thing. He implemented aspects of Chip Kelly's offense where we saw Nick Foles 5 years ago, succeed. And he implemented that. I don't know if he's been sitting on that for 5-6 weeks, because it seems like he has been, because Foles looked nothing like that in the first 4 or 5 games that he played. How many games did he play? 4 games?
4 games in the regular season.
But he was out, the run pass options, he was throwing BBs. And it was almost that you watched it on the screen where you would see Alshon Jeffrey lined up high, and you could see where the safety was, and you're like, quick slant. And it was boom, quick slant. Or you could see the lane for the deep ball. I've never seen Nick Foles throw deep balls like that.
So remember, and I had alluded to this about these 3.5 regular season games. I'll say half, because that Cowboys game was a throwaway.
Yeah,
Came in for a series or 2 and then was out.
Yeah.
So, but I alluded to this, and this is what I was talking about with, I wasn't too concerned with how Foles looked in regular season. Those were preseason for him. I just wanted him to get back into game speed and get set up, because I knew that come down the stretch, he can make these throws, he can make these plays, but he's got to get more comfortable. And that's what those 3 games were about. The Giants game, he goes off, throwing 4 touchdowns. Another game, he gets stuffed. We needed to see all that out of him so that he could get to this point where he's at now. Back to being comfortable, back to being, he started now for 6 weeks. So now he's back into his pocket. And it also gave Doug the ability, to your point, start to expand what he wanted to do,
Yes.
implement the things that Foles does best versus what Carson does within their offense.
Yes.
And I think, to your point, first off, we knew that Doug Peterson was a great play caller, right? Coming from the Andy Reid tree.
No, we didn't.
I did. Well, I
knew
that. He was touted as a great play caller, but what I didn't realize is his offensive design was superior, and it's all there. What he does on offense is all there. Put in the fact that the guys love him. He's a player's coach, and he's a former quarterback. So he's obviously understands how to maximize your quarterback to this point, moving from Wentz, who's more of a dynamic athlete, to Foles, who's going to be statuesque in the pocket. The offense just looked unstoppable.
Yeah, and you mentioned all that stuff. Those are all things that we don't know at the beginning. What really do we have to go off of? He was in Kansas City. Was he calling plays? Was he not calling plays? Sometimes they'd say he was. Sometimes they say they didn't. And 2 years ago, the playoffs, when he made a bonehead play, apparently he called the bonehead play. You don't know what this guy is. The fact that he's a quarterback and that he's been around locker rooms and things like that, that's all well and good. But when you heard his press conferences and you saw how he handled the media and how he handled certain distraction situations from last year, I thought he was just a noodle. Like, he was just said the right things, was kind of like corny, but the way that he had the guys prepared, actually throughout this entire year, it's completely. I've done a 180 on Doug Peterson.
Did you see some Andy in him at the press conferences?
Well, I guess that's When you're around Andy Reid for 20 years, I guess that some of that rubs off on you. But to speak to your Howie Roseman point too, and you mentioned all the guys that really contributed, and another thing on Peterson was the run pass balance, which was so important that we talked about.
He's been great at that all year, hasn't he? Because you could have saw him early on. I've loved this about what Doug's done all year. He could have early on, when Wentz started getting hot, fallen in love with that, sort of like Andy does, once your quarterback starts getting hot throwing the ball and just come out and start throwing the ball 45, 50 times a game, but he didn't. He always sticks to that run, pass, balance because it's so key to what they do when they run these RPOs and they get all their running backs involved. And Doug does not fall into that trap of coming out and throwing 12 times in a drive. He's going to get his 4 or 5 runs in. I love the way his offensive game plan involves everything that they do, run, pass, RPO, read option. They'll bring in, right? They'll bring in the misdirection on the RPOs and they get the Aguilar sweep around. Like everything that he does is on balance. And that's the key because it doesn't let a defense sit on what you're doing.
And he was 5 steps ahead Mike Zimmer the entire night. I mean, they got pressure on the quarterback. They got pressure on the blitz. They got pressure without the blitz. That's going to be key for the Super Bowl, and we'll probably get into that if we can get a show together for next week. But I started talking about the run because I was talking about Roseman and how he brought in Blunt and Ajayi and Jeffrey and Smith and how they all contributed to the game. But one of the big things that I have noted here is Vitae. And the fact that when Peters went down, Roseman didn't make a panic move. There was a guy out there at the time, I believe, was Dwayne Brown from the Texans, who was picked up by the Seahawks, I guess, in a trade. I forget what they traded for him, but that could have been a panic move. They didn't panic. They knew what they had in Vitae, and he's come around to be a big part of that line, and he played very, very well on Sunday. And I think that's just one other factor in how good a job Roseman's done this year, and he won the Executive of the Year, well deserved. And I think Peterson should be hands down the Coach of the Year. I've heard he's not going to get it. I don't know how or why.
We talked about this last week. I know. So apparently it's going to go to Sean McVay of the Rams. I disagree with that, and I alluded to this last week. It's actually, I didn't realize that was the decision I was told during the show, but it just strengthened my point that I think the Rams are overrated. I think McVay did a great job. I'm not trying to say that he didn't, right? But their first round bounce in the playoffs sort of validated my point that they were a little overrated. But hey, listen, I agree with you. I think Dougie P was hands down the Coach of the Year. But what are we going to do? We don't get to decide that. That's the AP, I think, does that.
Yeah, I think they'll come out with that. I don't know when they really set. But
so
neither here nor there.
So all this leading up now to the Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl next Sunday. This is the tail end of media week here. Cool thing that From the Hill wanted to do. I don't know if Nick is excited about this as I am, but I'm taking Super Bowl prop bets. And when I say prop, I don't mean like Gronk under or over 68 yards. I mean, if you're not an Eagles fan and you're not rooting for the Eagles, right? I know there's a ton of Cowboys fans. There's a ton of folks that Chione. There's a ton of folks that
Jared
that don't live in the area that listen to the show. If you want to place a prop bet, let me know. Let me know what you want to bet, right? If you want to bet money, call your bookie. I'm not taking your money bets. But if you want to bet something fun, let's do it. But I'm not shaving my eyebrows or my head, right? Everybody knows I love my hair, so I'm not doing that. Those are the only two things that are off limits. Anything else, I'm willing to discuss. Prof, you in on that? You take some prop bets?
I guess so. We'll see how they come in.
So the biggest one that we were just talking about was the softball bet, right? We're going to get to do the bat reveal from your and Jared's college football channel.
We'll see if Jared comes through.
You think he's Welshies?
Nah, Jared's not like that.
Jared's
a man of his word.
Yeah, we can get Jared in grape juice.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm gonna shift here, and this is the main attraction. Personally, I've been fired up about this all week, and I had to put this together. So this is the segment we're titling Philadelphia Strikes Back. Hoo-ha, are you ready for this?
Yeah, man, let's go. Let's get into it.
So this week in the media, after the NFC Championship game, we've heard a lot of negative talk about Philadelphia and Philadelphia fans, right? Specifically, some words that I've heard used are Philadelphia is a trash city, or the Philadelphia narrative that Philadelphia is just a trash city, trash fans, right? And they're just no rules, savage fans these games, and I'm sick and tired of it. Let's talk about where all the crux of this comes from, and then we can build from there. I'm going to walk you through this entire thing, and then I'm going to debunk this myth. Where does it start, Nick? I'll tell you where it starts. Snowballs at Santa.
Yeah, that's the worst. I cringe whenever a national broadcast mentions snowballs at Santa because there are a couple reasons. It started in when did it happen? 1950 something?
It was the 50s or the 60s.
1950s or 60s, and they were booing Santa because he was drunk and raggedy and all that. I don't even like talking about it because it's just so played. It's just so played out. It's just like it's the same thing as every national broadcast. You have to mention snowballs at Santa. Every national broadcast, you have to have the B-roll of the cheesesteaks being chopped up. You have to have the B-roll of the Rocky statue.
And if there's a snowflake.
But Philadelphia plays into that a little bit.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into this. So the narrative in the national media is that Philadelphia fans are unruly, right? And Philadelphia is the worst town to come to as a visiting player or visiting fan. And it's absolute garbage, right? People are trash. I'm gonna debunk this myth. I'm going to break this chain, and I'm going to tell you why things have gotten so out of hand recently, and then we're going to break it down. Right now, first, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I'm not here to defend those few idiots down there that are going overboard, okay? Every time, every city, every game has them, all right? The guys that are too drunk or that are just over the top, that's not just relegated to Philadelphia, that's everywhere, right? You've got that anywhere you go. I'm not defending those guys. Also, I'm not defending Delco-Delphia, even though we love the Delco guys. Where there was a big fight in the parking lot that Barstool had, and then they had a picture of the guy's bloody face, right? First off, there was Eagles fans fighting each other, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But I'm not defending that stupid stuff either. But those are an isolated select few. What I did want to talk about, because I just made mention of it, is Barstool. So Barstool, right, if you don't know or don't follow Barstool, they're the largest growing media provider right now. Right. And they're awesome. I'm a big fan of the way that they bring media about, right, because it's very progressive, it's very new age, it's very social media. So, but the thing about what they do and the way they cover things is it's a new look at things that people aren't used to, especially like older generations who may be on Instagram or on their application. They're bringing you live feeds of the tailgate in the parking lot, right? And these are things that 3-4 years ago you never would have saw.
It's basically sports TMZ.
Right. And there's a bit of almost like a trolling feel to it because they're sort of making fun of it while making fun of themselves, right? It's kind of their style, which again, I appreciate, but it's given a new look to this. So the thing about it though, when I look at that coverage that was put on it with the videos they put out versus some of the other coverage they do, what difference is the Eagles fans tailgate, right? And that is so much worse than the Bills Mafia. You've got a bunch of grown men and women getting sloppy drunk, smashing themselves through tables like they're 13-year-olds watching WWE, and yet Eagles fans are the savages.
Well, the first question I have to ask you is, where does their content come from? Are these videos? They're not journalists covering tailgates.
No,
these are coming in from fans.
That's
so they're being sent in.
That's my point. And the more shock value that the video has, right, or the more it's showing something outrageous, the more apt they are to show it, which is my point. So it looks like the videos that they'll get shown from the Eagles tailgate, for instance, are going to be a fight or somebody falling over because they're too drunk, right? And that's, again, there's nothing wrong with that because, again, it's funny, right? I mean, I do like to see it. But if you're not taking it in context, this is what gives this liberal media, the national media, the ability to run with this narrative that Philadelphians are trash.
Well, there's two sides of it. I think that one, it's the reputation of the city. And to be completely honest with you, I don't mind that reputation that we're a really tough team to come, tough town to come in and play as an opposing player. That's one of the great things about the city and the passion that the city shows.
That's right. But here's the question, right? And this is the fine line. I'm going to set you up. Why is it that Seattle is such a tough place to go into to play? Philadelphia, such a tough place to go and play, except Seattle's fans are great, holy above all, and Philadelphia's fans are garbage.
Because do Seattle fans egg the bus while they're coming, like when the team bus is coming in?
They do, and that's what I'm going to get into. You're a great straight man. You are a great straight man. But I'm sort of moving through in a progression here. So to close out sort of the coverage here, again, I'm not saying this is Barstool's fault at all. What I'm saying is that their coverage.
It can't be their fault because it's coming in from other people.
That's right.
People are sending
people
it in.
are submitting the videos. But
everybody
what I'm
wants
saying
their
is,
15 minutes of fame.
That's right. And what I'm saying is that their coverage of it has given the media, the mothership, and these other programs the ability to build on the narrative. Okay? Let's talk about the big things that were a big problem here for the most recent game, right? And it's this fan misbehavior against like just overall, and that there's lack of control. I'm going to start globally here, and then we're going to bring it back home. And I'm going to start with soccer, okay? Do me a favor, because I did this while I was doing research. Go ahead and Google fan incidents at soccer matches worldwide. It's enough to make you want to throw up, okay? It's absolutely deplorable. I've got a bunch of instances here that I want to run through. But when you look at just soccer fans overall worldwide, right? They made a movie about it. You ever see the movie Green Street Hooligans?
It's a great movie.
Great movie, right? But that's not too far off from the real life narrative.
Which I never understood in that movie.
They just fist fight each other.
No, but they hate journalists.
They hate the journalists.
Like
or a Bobby.
But does that make sense?
Journo.
Who cares?
I don't know.
Like,
That's I can't. I don't speak the King's English, so I can't.
I don't know. I thought it was
that.
weird. It's weird. It's a great movie. Check it out.
It is a great movie. But so now getting more serious, right? I want to talk about a few instances that are pretty nuts. The first one I want to talk about, ESPN actually did 30 for 30 on it, was the big Hillsborough incident. Okay, you know about the Hillsborough incident?
No.
So 1989, there's a huge match at Hillsborough. And what ends up happening is they have opposing fans and the home team fans trying to rush in, right? Everybody's trying to rush into the stadium. They end up getting overcrowded, and the fans start going crazy. They're actually literally smushing each other up against the barrier in the stadium so bad that the people start pouring onto the field, and it's mass hysteria everywhere. There were, again, ESPN did 30-30 on it, 96 people died at a soccer match with 766 injuries.
Yeah.
Insanity. Just pure insanity. Fans just absolutely out of control. This one actually made me sick. And we've seen it with Mario Balotelli too. But so 2014, Barcelona's Dani Alves, and he's a black guy. There's opposing fans, okay, at a Barcelona game. He's in a corner at a corner kick, right? There's opposing fans yelling at him that he's a monkey and tossing bananas at him. I'm not talking about like one banana. And by the way, it wasn't banana night at the stadium. Hundreds of bananas getting hurled at this guy. And that's acceptable?
When was that?
2014.
That's ridiculous.
It's deplorable. It's absolutely deplorable. But let me ask you this. Is every time there's a game at that stadium, do they reference throwing bananas? No. The answer is no. Why is it that we always go back to a narrative that happened in Philadelphia 50 years ago?
We're talking about different countries. And obviously, other countries are not as diverse and evolved in social issues as the U.S. has, especially over the last couple of years with some of the race issues that are going on. So you can't really speak for other countries because they haven't gone through the evolution that the United States has and get to the point where we're at now. You know, it doesn't seem like it's gotten better. You know, and I can't say if it has or not because I wasn't around, you know, in the 60s when other things were going on. But
sure, that's a good point.
It's certainly from other countries. So you know, some of the things that are acceptable in other countries. Nope, you know, and
I'm with you. So that's a good point. So now we're going to come back to the U.S. We talked about it at a global scale, which is just outrageous, right? But let's come back to the U.S. Let's come back to the crux of where Philadelphia is the worst city in the United States. Hey, Nick, Can I ask you about an event? Maybe you remember it. It's got a pretty interesting nickname, and it's pretty famous happening here. How about the Malice at the Palace?
I I actually about a month ago, maybe not even. I watched the entire thing again.
The footage
I watched
is
the entire
incredible.
thing.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
It's probably
All
the
right, well,
craziest
first
thing that
off,
ever
let's
happened.
talk about it a little bit. So I know most people know what the Malice at the Palace is, but let's break it down. So back in 2004, the Pacers are playing in Detroit. They're playing the Pistons. This Pacers team, if you remember, is Ron Artest,
Jermaine O'Neal,
Meta World Peace now, right?
Meta
Ron
World Peace,
Artest,
Jermaine O'Neal.
Jermaine O'Neal, okay, and they're playing the Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups Pistons. So what ends up happening is it's a chippy game, right? The Pacers and Pistons are rivals, and they were both pretty good teams at the time. The Pistons were really good. So things get chippy between Ben Wallace and Ron Artest. Ron Artest has always been an agitator, right? As he's on the scorers table, he's sort of laying down. I don't know why he's laying
No,
down.
I know exactly why. It was really weird.
This is a weirdo.
So Ben Wallace and Artest get into it, and somebody shoves somebody.
They were pushing each other back and forth.
Yeah,
so
there was a lot of there was a lot of time in between. I think it was foul shots or something where they were fighting. They broke it up. I think Artest got hit or something like that. He got shoved, and he just goes. He walks away. He was trying to separate himself from the incident actually, and he wasn't completely to blame for the entire thing. So he's laying on the scorer's table,
and there's things flying at him.
Right. So there's a couple different fights that break out on the floor with the players in between this time frame, and he goes and lays, he like separates himself from everything.
So
goes
stop
and lays
right
down.
there.
Yeah.
Stop right there. So now where we're at right here, right? This is the key part about this fan misbehavior. So he separates himself. There's a scuffle still on the floor, right?
Yeah,
Ben Wallace was an enforcer, right? He's
crazy.
pissed. Ron Artest is away, but there's a scuffle on the floor and the players. And what do the fans do?
Start chucking.
They're chucking all kinds of crap at Artest. And when they pan to the entirety of the fans in the stands, it's not one person. The whole arena is chucking things at Ron Artest and going absolutely insane. Well, what happens is Ron Artest gets struck with a full beer.
Well, yeah, it hit him right on the chest, and he gets up, and it's like if you've ever seen the bullfight, the bullfight video where like bulls jump up into the crowd. He jumps up into the crowd, and this guy's like he doesn't know where to go, and he just starts swinging.
They start flying. There's literally a fist fight between Indiana Pacers and 20 or so Detroit Pistons fans in the stands. By the way, it goes way over the top. Jermaine O'Neal comes up to try and pull him out.
Jermaine O'Neal slumps some guy.
Yeah, Jermaine O'Neal nails somebody. Then it pours onto the floor. You have fans at a professional basketball game pouring onto the floor, squaring up with NBA players.
Yeah, there was a chair thrown. There's video of a chair being thrown into a crowd. There's videos of obviously cups and beers flying everywhere.
Hey, Nick.
It was interesting.
Can I ask you a question?
Entertaining video, but
can I ask you a question? Every time they have a basketball game in Detroit where the Pistons or the Pacers come to town to play the Pistons, do they talk about fans punching players?
I don't know. That's going to be one that sits for a while, but it's not a national.
And the answer is no.
It's not a national.
The only
doesn't
time
draw national attention.
The only time I heard it mentioned was on the 10th anniversary of it, and they barely touched on it. They just talked about how it happened. Why isn't that a narrative? Why isn't Detroit a terrible place to play basketball? Because their fans are unruly and they go and they get into fist fights with the players. Fist fights with the players.
Let me tell you why. Because the reputation. All right, so there's a couple things. The narrative of that was that it all started from two players that already have awful reputations in the league, Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal. So the reputation of the players took away from the behavior of the fans. And the fact that these guys going into that game had that reputation as being troublemakers and just being like, I obviously they all ran up into the stadium, the stands to fight these people. So the reputation of those players is what's going to be remembered.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to give you 2 points here that are going to really make that a hard leg to stand on. Okay, the first one is, let's say that didn't happen in Detroit. Let's say it happened in Philadelphia. Do you think it matters that it was Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal?
Yeah, I think it does.
The answer is no, because then all it would ever be is another thing to this narrative about throwing snowballs and the Philadelphia fans are unruly and so much worse than every other fan base ever. Yet there's never been a fan fist fight with players on the floor in Philadelphia like happened in Detroit. And I hear what you're saying about...
Well, there's never been that anywhere.
Well, that's my point.
There's one hockey game.
I hear what you're saying about the reputation of players, but at the end of the day, it comes down to fans and control and not being out of control, right? There's been things thrown on the floor at players, right, in stadiums and NBA games across the country, right, and at various different stadiums. But there has never been, even after Artest goes into the stands... Watch that video for another 3 minutes. There's fans pouring onto the floor to punch him.
I know.
So that's just outrageous. If it was isolated to the one guy or the two guys where he runs up, literally watch the video. Jermaine O'Neal and Artest are squaring up against random fans pouring onto the floor to fight them.
Right.
But yet that's not the narrative in Detroit. Why is it? Because the media took this snowball thing, this Santa snowball, and created this persona of Philadelphia. And so anytime they get something to feed into it, they will. Yet there's never been fistfights on the floor at a basketball game.
I think we're super sensitive to it a little bit.
Hold on. We're not though.
I don't want it to go away completely. I want there to be a reputation, and I want there to be intimidation when players come in here. There's going to be stuff that happens everywhere, and whether or not Philadelphia gets publicized more than, say, Cleveland or Pittsburgh or whatever.
It's all they talk about, Nick. Let's talk about fighting, because this was a big thing that came up from the game. Let's talk about fighting, okay? You want to talk about NFL fights? Let me take you back here. I got one. 2016, the Ravens go to Oakland to visit the Raiders, and two guys beat a Ravens fan so bad that he spent 3 months in a hospital from serious brain trauma. Let me ask you a question, Nick. Has any opposing fan that came into a Philadelphia Eagles game in Philadelphia ever been, I'm sure there's been fights, ever been beaten so bad he had to spend 3 months in a hospital from brain trauma?
Not that I know of. I know there was one death. I don't know if it was an opposing fan. There was one fight. It was back in...
Yeah, it was not an opposing fan, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was really crazy, and that got some public attention as well. But,
But we're talking about opposing fans coming into the stadium. This dude gets completely the pulp beat out of him because he's wearing a Ravens jersey in Oakland. How come we don't talk about Oakland as being unruly? No, it's the black hole. It's great. Their fans are great. Oh, it's such a great place to go. There's nothing. Philadelphia is trash. Why don't we talk about Oakland as this place, right? Oh, here we go.
I don't know. Do you view Oakland as a paradise?
There you go. There you go.
But that's what I'm saying. Do you view Oakland as this like? I hear about them that they're a tough city to go into.
Absolutely. I equate Oakland to the same as I do Philadelphia, right? You've got fans that care. They get a little rowdy. Yeah, it's got the reputation of being a tough place to go and not a great place for opposing fans, but I don't hear anybody calling Oakland trash and hot garbage and their people and their fans. Their people are lesser and their fans are garbage like they do Philadelphia.
I don't know. I think Oakland has a reputation as not being a great place to live.
Well, yeah, but you're talking more about economics now. Than we're talking about just fans at a stadium.
No, I'm talking about being a tough place to go into. I've heard things about Washington being a tough place to go into.
So, all right, let's keep at that narrative. So, I got another one for you.
But for us to be the toughest of that, I like that.
But it's not about being the toughest. It's not about being the toughest. I'm going to talk about the East Coast run in a second with DC, but it's not about being the toughest. What's going on is the national media has taken this narrative as we're the toughest and turned it into we're trash.
Well, why?
We're over the top. We're out of control. Our fans are unruly. That's what it's become. It's become from a tough place to play to our people and our fans are garbage.
All right, so let's look at what they did for the game on Sunday.
Hang on, we're gonna get there. I got one more. 2011 does result for a death. The two Dodgers fans beat a Giants fan to death in the parking lot at a game. They beat him to death. Hey, Nick, you ever heard of anybody getting beat to death at a Phillies game? Nope, hasn't happened. But how come LA, right? What you see the pattern that I'm getting to here. All of these incidents of things happening, they're actually serious in nature, right? Not throwing snowballs at Santa or throwing trash at a bus on the way out, eggs or trash at a bus. All these things that happen of a serious nature didn't happen in Philadelphia. And before we start, all right, you know what? Let's talk about
real quick. Let me touch on that real fast.
All right, I need a breath.
So all right, there's like things that you can report on, like fans getting beaten to death, which would obviously get reported here if that were to happen. And it was reported in LA. That's why we know about it, right?
But my point is...
But think of the weird stuff that happens here. Think of the weird stuff that happens here, that a guy puking on somebody, Pukemon, from the 2008 season. Like, that's weird. That's a weird thing that happened here. But fans punching a horse.
Let me ask you a question, Nick. About
the
that.
Guy's an idiot. He punched a horse. But how do you, like, if you're in the national media and you catch word of a Philadelphia fan doing that, or even if it happened in LA, a fan punching a horse, that's like something different to report on. Right, it's not somebody getting beaten to death.
But here's the thing. You're making my point, because when you look at this stuff,
but this stuff doesn't have.
It does, dude. Dude, are you kidding me? I watched this year legitimately.
You're talking about fights.
No, I'm not. I'm going to give you, dude. Well, you didn't let me go through my entire rundown here, because we're going to get into the other stuff. But you're talking about people puking on each other. Do you watch Barstool? Did you see the Redskins fan puke all over the Giants fan this year? It was incredible. It was this No, the dude's falling asleep, and it's this projectile puke everywhere.
This kid did it on purpose.
Yeah, but it doesn't. This stuff happens at every stadium, every city, every week, and you know it. The punching a horse thing, I don't know, maybe not. But you see the crazy stuff that the Kansas City and Oakland and all these other city fans are doing? Every city, every week has this stuff. And now it's more so than ever, to your point, because they want to get on Barstool, or they want to get on TMZ, or they want to get on the Flavor of the Month to be the internet sensations. But my problem is that every time somebody here in Philly does it, the media gets wind of it and turns it into this narrative. Instead of it just being a goofy incident or fans being fans and having fun, it turns into Philly's trash and everything Philly does is garbage. That's my point.
I think last week was exacerbated by how soft the Minnesota fans actually were.
Here we go. Let's go to Minnesota. Can we go to Minnesota?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to Minnesota.
I've been to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
They're nice people.
Minnesota.
They're really super nice people, but...
It's a boat of respect.
That's Canadian.
They're beady little eyes.
No,
so let's go to Minnesota. So
they were soft.
Nick's right. So the narrative is the Minnesota fans, right? They come into town, and I guess they weren't ready for the East Coast because, look, let me just put it to you like this, okay? Before we get into talking about Minnesota, if you had a game, Vikings, just FYI, Redskins, Giants, and if you were in the AFC, Ravens, Boston, Patriots, it's the same. All up and down the East Coast, okay? This is how it is. I don't know what to tell you. This is how it is. But they're Midwestern, North Midwestern, right? Very laid back.
Yeah, don't think you're going to wear an opposing jersey and come in here and get a handshake and a pat on the back.
It's not going to happen. By the way, I seriously doubt that Eagles fans walking through the parking lot at a Minnesota game are going to get pat on the back. Oh, good luck, mate. Good luck, eh? Good eye. Oh, that's bad. That was a bad.
That's Australia.
Yeah,
Where the hell are you going?
I don't have good.
They're very nice people up there, but they're not going to get the Eagles jerseys aren't going to get handshakes and pats on the back up there either.
Yeah. So there's two things
That's what makes sports fun.
There's two things I want to talk about with Minnesota. The first one is this is just pure stupidity, and now there's reports that came out this week that Minnesota Uber drivers people are signing up to be Uber drivers in Minnesota, and they're going to take people to the wrong place to go to the Super Bowl. Let me ask you a question.
Good,
How
man.
stupid could you be?
Good, that's
Do
fun.
you think you're insulting my intelligence and everybody that lives in Philadelphia, whether it's an Eagles fan anywhere, that's going to the Super Bowl, if you're supposed to drop me off at a stadium and I look up because maybe I'm not paying attention and I'm not within 2 blocks of a stadium, you think I'm getting out of the car? Like, what's this the stupidest thing I've ever heard?
It's fun, man. Let them be idiots.
So all right. So I got a buddy, contributor to the show.
Because if we were doing that here, we would think that's hilarious. We would think that's the greatest thing ever.
But if it happened here, we get vilified.
I know. Who cares? Like, just let
If
go.
it happened here, we get vilified.
Who
So
cares?
let me talk about. I got a contributor to the show.
Reputations are
Tom
good. It's
from
good to be
Wisconsin
feared.
is a contributor to the show, and we were talking about this, and he knows how fired up I was about this. And they were talking about how Eagles fans were throwing trash everywhere, and the city's trash. Minnesota people were saying the city's trash. How soon they forget. Let ye without sin cast the first
Oh
stone.
gosh, this is going biblical.
Minnesota. Okay, you guys are holier above none. How about the Gopher riots of 2002 and 2003? Literally, the city tore itself apart. You want to talk about trash and just complete unruly behavior? Let me give you a rundown of what happened. There was bonfires of over 60 mattresses burning out of control. They tore the place down. Riots, overturned cars everywhere. The police show up to try and control these riots 2 years in a row, and they're getting rocks, bottles thrown at them. You got cops getting pepper sprayed
Didn't that
by
happen
people.
at Penn State too?
Oh, I don't know.
That happened
Well,
at
Penn
Penn
State ain't
State.
in Philadelphia, bro. Penn State's 4 hours away.
I know, but these things happen at colleges.
But this wasn't just the college. That's my point. Like, look at this. This is pours over everywhere. They had people saying, legit, this was a quote from a reporter from the Minnesota Sun-Times, or whatever it was. If we win the game, we're going to have a riot bigger than last year's. And legit, that's what they did. This wasn't a party. They went out to riot, burn places down. The city was in shambles for weeks. We're savages. Philadelphians are the savages. Philadelphians are out of control. I need a breath, Nick.
Keep it. I like it. I like the narrative. I like being a savage. I like our reputation that way. I don't mind it. I don't get all upset when I hear about, some of the dumb things that get reported. Yeah, it's just an idiot that does something stupid. But you know what? That's on him. That doesn't speak to me as a person that lives around Philadelphia. I think that I like the intimidation factor. I like that it keeps fans that are thinking of wearing opposing jerseys on their toes. If you expect to wear an opposing jersey and walk into a stadium anywhere, like, you're gonna hear something. I think yelling at people like that, booing them as they walk through the parking lot, that's all well and good. Throwing stuff at them, especially like full beer cans, like you don't need all that. That's ridiculous. But it should be a tough place to play. It should be a tough place to come in and watch a game if you're an opposing fan. I think that's what kind of makes us unique. The violent stuff, the throwing stuff, the bodily fluid stuff, all that's out of line.
I totally agree. And look, I was really fired up about this segment. And I think my point, Nick, you made great points of where I really wanted to land this. Look, here's what I'm saying. I'm with you. Look, Philadelphia's an East Coast city, and we're a passionate city, and we're the 5th largest city in the country, right? 2.4 million people. And this is a passionate town for their sports, especially their Eagles. But when the parking lot experience here, right, is no different than the Giants. I've gone to Giant Stadium in the Eagles jersey. I got heckled pretty good. But I didn't complain about it. I expected it because I knew what I was getting into wearing my Eagles jersey up there. But you know what? I wasn't scared for my life. And I know tons of Giants fans who come down and wear their Giants jerseys to the game. And yeah, they get heckled and they get yelled at, but none of them are scared to do it. They actually enjoy it because that's part of the thing. Look, here's what I'm saying to you, and here's why I brought all these examples out. This is what I want people to understand. Philadelphians and their fan base, they're no different than you and all your other cities. All these incidents I'm talking about. By the way, I'm not calling Buffalo and their fans trash. I'm not calling Detroit and their fans trash, or Oakland, or LA, or any of these incidents I brought up. You know why? Because they're not. Sometimes the actions of a few reflect upon the masses. But what I'm saying is that Philadelphia is no different than any of these other cities. And if you think that you are holy and above all, you need to look back at your history. because there's been incidents at your stadium that nobody references all the time. And I just really am sick and tired of the national media narrative only picking out one or two Philadelphia incidents and then building on it, but they don't do this in other
So let me ask you this then.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you this then. Did Philadelphia, with this past weekend in particular, kind of bring some of that on themselves?
So here's what I'll say. This is what happens, right? And so
I'll tell you why I say that.
I could have done without some of the throwing of things at the bus on the way out, right? That's the only thing I would say that they brought on themselves.
All right, so when I say brought it on themselves, it was reported, I was driving back from South Carolina before the game, and in the car, I had heard that Philadelphia, the city, was greasing the poles, greasing the light poles so that people, if we won, would not climb up the light poles. I guess won or lost because riots or whatever happens. So that was reported. So what do you think the first thing that some drunk idiot's going to do when he sees a Crisco covered light pole? It now becomes a challenge. It's no longer a deterrent. It's more of a challenge for him to get up that pole.
Attempt to
and sure enough,
yes.
there was 5-6 people up the light pole.
Right.
Because it's now more of an accomplishment than it would have been.
Right. In an attempt for institutional control, they actually sort of incite that. But look, by the way, there's a Super Bowl coming up, and if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, which of course Nick and I are desperately rooting for, then the city's going to be lit up. But look, you got 2.5 million people in the Philadelphia and the surrounding suburban areas. And by the way, there was no serious incidents at all with the celebration in the city. It was chaos. There's a lot of people.
a couple F-bombs slipped out on live television.
There's a lot of people floating around, but there was no major incidents. Look, I'm here to tell you that this stuff goes on everywhere, and the fact that the national media just blows it out of proportion. Look, I'm with you. I'm perfectly cool with the tough Philadelphia narrative. I am with it. And even a tiny bit of there's a little bit of a trashy edge to it, right? I'm good with all of that stuff. But this week in particular, I just heard way too much over the top, and then them going back and referencing this one or two events, like the snowball event. I'm so sick and tired of it. This city, this town is no different than any of these other East Coast cities. Yeah, it's not Minnesota. It's not Minnesota. And I'm not sorry, right? Hashtag it. Sorry, not sorry that it's not Minnesota. But I'm telling you right now, and then I have to stop on my rant, that this needs to stop. It's never going to. That's actually a message, too, to your point, to the Philadelphia fans. We need to stop perpetuating that with stuff like that, right? And there's no climbing on poles and things like that.
It'll never stop that.
But
we just won a Super Bowl, man.
What city will? That's my point. What city will?
You're right. It happens everywhere. Keep the cameras coming.
I'm tired from that. That took a lot out of me emotionally.
Well, I'm glad you made it through. I'm glad we're gonna get to talk about this next week. Hopefully, we can put a nice show together before the Super Bowl. Break down the keys to the game.
Super Bowl preview. Hopefully, we got bets that come in before that we can talk about.
Yeah, put your bets out there.
Put your bets out there. Look,
and hit us up.
Just because
swag.
Just because I won't shave my eyebrows or head, don't mean Nicky will. So he might take that bet. Eyebrow for eyebrow?
Who knows?
I got some thick eyebrows, dude. You can shave yours off. We'll go back. Don't worry about it. So, all right. I got to wrap it up. I got to land the train. Look, thanks everybody as always. Land the train plane. Look, I'm the Klimt here. I'm
2018. We got flying trains.
Yeah. Look, we appreciate everybody that tuned into the show. Please share this video, especially the Philadelphia part. We want everybody to see this from a Philadelphian's perspective. Firing back. If you like the video and you like the videos that we've done, give us a subscribe, give us a like Nicky said. Hit us up.
Get the swag.
You want some swag?
You're not going to get that one. You get this one.
You need an FTH wristband.
Early morning show.
Everybody that has hit me up already, remember, I won't forget you. That's it.
Koozies, bracelets, subscribe. Should we give subscribers a bracelet?
Oh yeah. Look, anybody that subscribes gets swag, so hit me up.
Yeah.
You subscribe, you're already a subscriber. Shoot me a note, shoot Nick a note. We're going to hook you up. Look, there's a bag one right behind us on top of my i8 model.
Yeah, baby.
Let's do it. All right, that's it. From the hill, we out. Swags Out.
See ya.